Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And now back by very popular demand to the DPAA Summit. Our next guest is a big hit whenever he speaks, wherever he speaks, especially during election years. You can catch him on many TV networks these days as he's consulted for more than 50 of the top Fortune 500 companies. Frank Luntz is best known for his political commentary, his polling, and his focus groups. He's graced our stage a few times, notably right before the last presidential election and the midterms. Frank, I believe your opening comments at that time reflected what the country should have been prepared for. Please tell us now what we're in for the next 3 weeks and then for the next 4 years. In addition, for the audience, when you welcome Frank, please send in your questions. We're going to take questions a few minutes in, so please start rolling your questions in to the question bar, which is on the side of the viewer. So welcome, Frank, take it away.
Thank you. And I apologize for starting this late, but fortunately, as with everything in life, if you allow a little bit of a back end, and I always feel like myself, like I am the back end. I'm the visualization of the back end, but it's nice to do this again. And I began 4 years ago by saying we're fucked. I now begin the next 3 weeks by saying what a shit show. So I've now gone from 2 words to 4 words, and it's not going to be over an election night. I'm going to try to show you why. So let me go right into it because we've missed a lot here. First, don't expect an effort in bipartisanship for a long time to come. Republicans don't like Democrats. Democrats don't like Republicans. Even when I discuss these things, and I put it forward that we need to find a way to reunite, the response I get was, yes, those horrible fill in the blanks need to come to their senses. No, we need to hold our own side accountable. It is not acceptable, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, to tell the president of the United States to shut up or to call him a clown. It is not acceptable, even if you're the president of the United States, to interrupt anybody twice a minute for 90 minutes. It was the most horrific performance I've seen by both people, and that is a reflection of what's happening in America. Second, is that this president right now has the highest disapproval rating of any president since Richard Nixon. You'd have to go back 40 years before you'd find anyone. It's actually more than 40 years. It's almost 50 years before you'd find anyone who is as disliked as this president. 46% are strongly unfavorable to him. And that's going to be very difficult to overcome in the 3 weeks that is left. Third, if I were to interview you all right now, when people ask me, how do Americans feel? I feel frustrated. I feel anxious. How do Americans feel? The answer, in a sentence, I am so tired of being so tired. That captures their emotions. That captures their frustrations, their just the strong desire to just get this over with. Fourth, we are the level of rancor and the words that are used by just about everybody in politics right now would not only make people blush, it's why our kids are behaving so badly. We wonder why the kids speak up to their teachers and why they speak back to their parents. The answer is that they're watching this happen every night, that they happen to come upon the news. We did a live focus group, and I urge you to check them out. They're for the LA Times, and we did 2 of them, one after the presidential debate and one after the vice presidential debate. And in both cases, parents actually sent their kids out of the room because they did not want to see the example that the candidates were setting. It's just really alarming. Fifth, and this is an economic wake-up call to you. And by the way, your organization and what you try to accomplish and what you do in providing messaging to the perfect audience is so powerful. And I would actually say that the people in this room need to hear this data and need to take it on themselves to attempt to change the dynamic of this country, to change our relationship with each other, to change how we interact with each other. And I'm going to stop here for 1 second. Barry, you should buy, and I'll buy you the first 20 if I have to. You should buy 100 Elmos, those cute little pink dolls, and give them out to people every time they act horribly to each other. every time they lose their cool, every time they lose their temper. If people are listening to me right now and they're just so angry, take an Elmo, hand it to them, and say, "This is yours." Half the reason is because you just can't be unhappy when you're holding an Elmo doll. The other half is that Elmo stands for enough. Let's move on. And that is how we need to think about the future. And holding that Elmo doll, I need to remember to call, I've got a person listening to me here, to call the head of Sesame Street, because they need to produce an emergency election eve program to put it on cable, or maybe it's election night to put it on cable. We need to learn from Sesame Street how we behave towards each other. But going back to this data, 65% believe the economy is rigged. Elizabeth Warren was successful. Even a majority of Republicans believe that. And that's why we're going to see some fundamental economic changes, that because the public just demands it. And perhaps even more importantly, 53% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And how they articulate it, which is my advice to you, how they explain it is visual. And you're all about a visual medium. You're all about communicating, not just in the perfect words, which I always do when I present to you, but I want you to focus on the visuals. And we're going to show you a couple ads that you may not have seen, because so many of you are from New York, Chicago, or LA, or perhaps Miami, and they're not getting any of the ads. The ads are being sent to North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan and Iowa and Ohio. The way you articulate paycheck to paycheck is to have someone falling asleep at night. They finally crawl into bed after a long day, and they pull up the pillows, and you see that they're stressed out, and they attempt to close their eyes, but they're still open. And they're open because they're wondering, are they going to be able to feed their kids, feed their family the next day? Are they going to be able to pay the bills at the end of the week? That keeps them awake longer than they should be. And that is the emotion that's happening right now with half of America, which is playing into our presidential campaign. The other visualization is about COVID and about the economic toughness that we're facing right now. People don't want to just be told that there is a problem out there. They don't want to be told that it's happy days are here again when it's 1932. They want the visualization, the virtual hug, not don't touch anybody. You'll get hit if you touch someone. But it's not, and this is something that Donald Trump has not done. He is tougher than he's ever been, and he's appealing right now so well to about 38% of America, the people who are his core voters. And he's getting about 42, 43% of the vote. You know what? He's going to lose. He's going to lose because he's not appealing to the center, because there aren't enough people who voted for him who are still alive today, who voted for him 4 years ago. Meanwhile, the new voters, the people never voted before, are voting for Joe Biden over Donald Trump by 70-30. I don't know if you've ever heard those numbers before, because nobody's talking about it. But Trump, his vote is 10 years older than the Democratic vote. And right now, his vote is, and they're not participating. And the last thing, which I want to show you, is that trust in the American democratic process, trust that the election will be held in a free, fair, and accurate manner, is at an all-time low. We really, I should not be, it's good that I'm going in the morning. At least for me, it's in the morning. Because if I were the last speaker in the afternoon, Barry, there'd be people jumping out of their homes right now, or climbing up to the roof to jump off the roof because of how people feel. So these are the key components for what's happening right now. Barry, let's do 2 questions.
Yeah, so Frank, great observations as always. The next debate, people are saying, should the mic be cut off? Should the rules be changed? What's your thinking on that?
You have to cut off the mic, and they're going to do it. And basically what they're going to do is what they did in the vice presidential debate, which is the candidates are not allowed to interrupt for the first 2 minutes. And if they try to do it and the moderator admonishes them to stop doing it and they continue to do it, they will cut off the mic. So that is going to happen. And the reason for that is, once again, there'll be 6 topics. Each candidate gets to do 2 minutes on the topic. So that's 12 minutes. That guarantees that we'll have a genuine discussion of the issues. It guarantees that people will be able to put forward their point of view and still be challenged, but not be so interrupted that you can't get a thought process out. I think it's great. I think it's exactly what they should be doing, and they will do it for that last debate.
That's good. A related question. A lot of people ask, what is this election commission? Who are they? How does that come about? And who gives them the power to set the rules? And is it basically the Democrat and Republican candidates and parties that anoint them as the holder of decision making?
Yes, they're put forward by the different parties, but if you looked at the list, they're all people who take their stewardship seriously. Frank Farrakhan is the leader right now. He's been the leader since 1992. He was the former chairman of the Republican National Committee. Never in debate history, other than Donald Trump, has either Republican or Democratic presidential candidate criticized the commission for being unfair and biased. They may not agree with all the decisions, and they certainly don't, but they debate it out, pun intended, and they come to an agreement for how they will be, which is why the Republican debate for vice president was done seated, and the debates for president are done standing. These are debates, these are discussions that the candidates have, and they find a way to get to an agreement. I have full faith and confidence that the debate commission does his job well and is excellent stewards of that process, even with candidates that are particularly difficult. So Barry, let me get to some more stuff here, because this is where it gets really interesting. Those who are voting on election day, 63% of Trump voters are voting on election day. Only 31% of Biden voters will do the same. Conversely, voting absentee or by mail, 69% of Biden voters, only 27% of Trump voters. On election night, and I just got the results now for which states are counting ahead of time. Florida will have their votes counted. Pennsylvania, which is a key swing state, won't even begin to count those votes by mail on election night. And let me show you one more piece of data, because I'm going to give you the conclusion that's going to freak you out. Biden voters, 2/3 of Biden voters think that Joe Biden is going to win. 80% of Trump voters think Donald Trump is going to win. And we've never had a situation where both sides were so convinced. And it's ironic to me that the Trump people are more convinced when he's further behind, and the Biden people are more doubtful about the election results when every poll shows Biden winning. So put these three sides together, and what you get is a Donald Trump victory on election night that comes undone in the hours and days that follow, leading to a Biden victory. What you get is half of the electorate, the Biden people, thinking that the election's been stolen from them because they're reading all the polling that shows that their candidate is leading, and they can't understand why Donald Trump on election night has a tremendous lead. Then over the 3 days, as the votes are counted, and as Biden goes ahead of Trump, it may only take 2 days for Biden to do so. But there's going to be that gap of at least 24 hours, maybe probably 48 hours. As that gap narrows, and as Biden reaches parity with Trump, you know that the Trump people, led by their president and by Fox News, are going to be communicating to the world the election's being stolen. And their faith in the electoral process, their faith will be crushed. So at some point in that 72 hours, you're going to have 100% of America believing that the election is fraudulent and that it is being stolen. And God help us. So I don't know what you all can do for it, but you ought to try. You ought to try to figure out, because you got the talent. The advertising that's done outside the home is more creative. It has to be, because you're trying to fight for people's attention and mind share. It is more innovative. It is more visual. The sounds are more intense. You guys should create the messaging that the American people hear starting Sunday night before the election, and they hear it through Thursday or Friday after the election. Why can't we all just get along? Why can't we all cooperate? The election is over. Now the healing begins. Now the reconciliation begins. So Barry, this is where things stand. These are the key elements. I want to show video, but before I do, give me a couple questions.
Does this answer to this go along party lines, or is there some fungible nature to this question, Frank? The Trump rallies, do people see them as reckless, or is it just the different camps that have the views that we think we're going to hear?
No, people see it's reckless. There's data here. And what's really cool about this presentation is, and I'm going to get you to COVID since you bring it up, just for a couple seconds. 69% of Americans think it's a major crisis. This is data as of right now. Still more than 2/3 think it's a major crisis right now. And only 7% think it's either a minor problem or not a problem at all. Donald Trump is not communicating to the majority of the country. I'll give you another example. 42% think it's getting worse. Only 25% think the worst is behind us. And 13% think the worst is now. I don't know how to emphasize this. Donald Trump's taking off his mask, saying that he would walk through a crowd and hug people and kiss them regardless of their gender, which I thought was remarkably ecumenical for this president. And by the way, y'all may not know this, but I was invited to the White House Christmas party in December. And after 2 hours of just fretting and agonizing, I finally got the guts to go up to the president to ask him, what does the J in Donald J. Trump stand for? You know what he told me? Genius. Pause for laughter out there. I'm sure the people writing down the joke right now. No, Barry, whoever asked that question is correct. The public does not consider these rallies. Trump people do, but if you're trying to go after those last remaining undecideds, which is really only about 3 or 4% of the country, but it could make a difference, then you should respect their wishes and you should respect their concerns. Let's do one more question, then we're going to go to the video.
Yeah, so someone is asking us, Democrats, are they, as a whole, as a party, as a leadership, as a direction, are they seeking the moral high ground or to win the election, and or both?
They're seeking it. In fact, I will go to that one too, because I've got your data. We asked a question about what's going to happen in Congress. 59% disapprove of Congress right now, the Republicans just as much as the Democrats. Only 36% have a job approval for Nancy Pelosi, which is still higher than 29% for Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell went through 8 hours of open heart surgery. It's because it took him 6 hours just to find his heart. Pause for laughter. I got to do a couple on the Democrats.
No, good.
Biden is so old, it takes him an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. Biden is so old, his favorite painting is The Last Supper. If you look carefully, it's the second waiter from the left. Joe Biden is so old, the only time he doesn't have to pee is when he's peeing. Okay, now that we got that stuff out, let me show you the generic ballot. Right now, 46% support the Democratic candidate for Congress, 41% the Republican. So based on this data, even though the Democrats have that much of a lead, based on this data, the Democrats pick up between 0 and 5 seats in the House, and they end up with 50 or 51 seats in the Senate. As of right now, the Democrats will control the Senate in January because of 50-50 ties broken by the vice president. They are concerned about winning the election. They will worry about bringing the country back united after the election is over. So Barry, I've stopped sharing. This should allow you to bring up the video. I want to show you, and I'm not going to stop between it. I'm going to show you one Biden ad and one Trump ad, and I'll talk about it after they're done. But we're tight for time, so we'll have a discussion after we air those. But let's bring them up, and both of these are significant. I'll explain why in a moment.
Okay, great. Let's run the video.
President Donald J. Trump delivered on the impossible in his first term, and in his second term, he will continue to fight for you. President Trump will end our reliance on China, eradicate the coronavirus, and make our medicines and supplies here in the United States. Create 10 million jobs in the next 10 months. This is President Trump's vision for America, one of boundless optimism and certainty in America's greatness.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I think consistency matters. What do you stand for? And it can't be bouncing around based upon what's going to get you elected. I tell everybody who's ever come to me as a young candidate, what are you willing to lose over? I'm willing to lose over race. I'm willing to lose over healthcare. I'm willing to lose over the idea that we have to deal with global warming. Consistency matters. What do you stand for? I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Biden's photographs, if you look at the pictures that they're using, Trump is more likely to use moving footage and Biden is more likely to use stills. You ask why? It's because Biden walks slower. Trump, even though they made fun of him at West Point, Trump is more active. He's more engaged. He's more passionate. And so they found that you show Biden in a still, but you show Trump moving. That's number one. Number two is that Biden uses shots from in front of him. It's why he looks straight at the camera during his debates, as I'm right now. I may have an audience in front of me, but you're the audience at home. Donald Trump, you had a lot of shots of him from the rear as he's moving forward. And what they found was that made him look more presidential, more of a leader. It showed him in the wake rather than him coming towards the camera. It showed everything that's happening around him. And they thought that would be more significant. And third, and this I cannot explain, the cuts, the speed of going from one shot to another for Donald Trump was much quicker than that with Joe Biden. Biden's videos and most of his ads allow you to savor them, to kind of feel them, whereas Trump is much more punchy, much faster. And I know that it's because of his own advice to his people that he doesn't want to be boring. So it's very hard to do advertising for someone who made a name from themselves on national television, you're fired. Yeah, whatever that The Apprentice. Biden wants everything to be calmer, slower, a little bit clearer. So let's do a couple. We'll actually have time to do two more ads, but let's take a couple questions first.
Sure. So the last vote, of course, there was a difference in the popularity vote and the popular vote and the Electoral College. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on the future of the Electoral College. Does it stay? Can it be changed?
I believe that if the Democrats win a majority of the Senate, I believe that they actually will consider changing the Electoral College. I think that they're going to consider bringing in two states, Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. I believe that they will consider getting rid of the filibuster. And finally, because of what's happening right now as we're on this show, is that they're going through the testimony. They're going through the Supreme Court, filling that Supreme Court justice, which the public, which is another case where I got data for you, the public believes that she's qualified, but they don't believe that she should be put in this way. So it's this cross current that's happening on just about every issue. I think that that there will be a challenge to the Electoral College. And the reason why I like the Electoral College, and probably the only reason, is that it guarantees that candidates go to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, New Hampshire. If you got rid of the Electoral College, the only places candidates would go to are New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, and maybe Philadelphia. They would only go to the population centers, and that's not good for the country. Let's do another one.
Good point. You've got two presidential candidates now, Frank, 177, 174. In your polling, do you find that people are concerned about a passing of a president in the next term?
It's one of the reasons why the vice presidential debate was the second most watched vice presidential debate in history. Only the Biden-Palin debate got higher viewers, and it's because of how controversial she was. People do want to know who the vice president is because they do think that it's a reasonable likelihood that no matter who gets elected, we may need to see a new person becoming president who is not elected to be president. And even though the debate is now faded and no one's talking about it, for that 48-hour period, that was the most significant political story. And actually, both candidates did well. So let's go back. I want to show you, and I may have you skip part of it, but I want to show you one more Biden ad and one more Trump ad. I know if you live in New York or LA or the place I just mentioned to you. You don't get a chance to see these ads because they're just not on television. They're not in play. But it's important because I want you to get the ideas for the work that you're doing and as part of this association. So let's roll Trump ad and let's roll the Biden ad.
One long, happy, healthy life for him. When Anthony was a day old, he was diagnosed with transposition of the greater arteries. He was born with this pre-existing condition, and to know that he's going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life. If I could take it from him, I would. If President Trump continues his assault on the ACA, eliminating the protections for those with pre-existing conditions, what's this going to look like for families like ours? It completely baffles me that you would look to attack any part of healthcare. Donald Trump is looking to roll back those protections for pre-existing conditions in the middle of a pandemic. It's mind-blowing. Joe Biden has a genuine interest in the struggles that people have with healthcare costs and pre-existing conditions. I just want Anthony to live a long, healthy life. That's it.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Early January, Donald Trump is first warned of the virus. He ignores it.
We have it totally under control. It's going to be just fine.
Defends the Chinese government instead. January 30th, Trump's own cabinet secretary warns of a pandemic, raising concerns that the Chinese government isn't being transparent. Trump calls him an alarmist.
We think we have it very well under control. We're working very closely with China and other countries, and we think it's going to have a very good ending for us.
The next day, the Dow plummets 600 points. Desperate to protect the stock market from sliding further, Trump continues to deny the threat and praise the Chinese government.
We're doing great in our country. China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard. And I think.
So I cut it short because you get the idea. That ad is called Timeline, and it's the most devastating ad in my mind. The ad that you saw was the #1 ad for Joe Biden in terms of viewership. Over 5 million people have seen it, and the ad's not aired on television, only online. The one I just showed you is aired in different places in different formats, but it's a timeline, and it gets around the challenge of the lack of trust that people have in facts. You see the date, you hear the president speaking. They don't take anything out of context. They present it in a straightforward fashion. And what we have found is, even among Trump people, they believed it because they still challenge the editing, that they wonder what was said either before or after that clip. But it was believable because you showed the actual facts behind it and you attach it to a calendar. So Barry, we're almost done. Let's take one final question and then I'll wrap up.
So if you were running the Trump campaign, I think you've given us some indication so far. What would you do in addition to some of the facts that you mentioned?
What I have found, and that is a great way to end this, and we did not rehearse this. I did not know any of these questions that were coming. And I've been thinking about this, and it's too late. It could have happened. The last time that what I'm about to tell you could have happened was last Monday when he was released from Walter Reed, which is to hold an 8 or 9 minute speech, which he never speaks that succinctly, and to do it from the private quarters of the White House, and to simply say, I'm not the same man today that I was even 1 week ago. And my heart goes out to those who have been hurt by this virus and by what's happened in the economy. And I'm going to do everything, regardless of what happens 3 weeks from now. The one thing you know about me is that I don't give in and I don't give up. And I'm going to fight every day from early in the morning until late at night, every single waking hour. Forget the campaign. This is about a campaign to win back our health. This is a campaign to win back our economy. This is a campaign to address discrimination. This is a campaign, the kind of campaign that all Americans can get behind, because this is what really matters. It took Joe Biden 47 years to get to where he is right now. I'm not a professional politician. I haven't lived in Washington for the last half century. We're going to take every element that we have from across the country and apply it to what we need to do now. to make people safe, make them secure, make them economically healthy, economically secure, and to provide that economic freedom that Americans want and deserve. I would have had him deliver it straight to camera, and I would have attempted to reset this election with, at that time, 4 weeks to go. He chose not to do it. He chose not to participate in the debate that's supposed to be happening on Thursday, and I think he did it at his own peril. And we are where we are. Barry, challenge your people over the next, to the remainder of this. Challenge them to put their creativity to work for the country. Challenge them to work together to find the right words and the right visuals and to touch the right emotions to make us remember how great a country we are and how we can work together. We will not always agree. In fact, we disagree on so much, but we also have always cooperated. We've always compromised to get to a better future. And DPAA should be among the leaders in that. So please challenge those who are listening to do more, and let's all try to do better.
It's great words to end it. Thank you so much, Frank. You're right. We've got an advertising group here. We've got media companies. We've got creative folks. We have messengers, and we need to heal. We will heal. And I like the model that you use of ELMO, which is the acronym for enough. Let's move on and come together as a country. Some great inspirational, scary in some ways, but at the same time, you were very inspirational, Frank, and we will get there, and hopefully we can get there sooner rather than later. So once again, showcasing the next 3 weeks, the next 4 years, Frank Luntz, thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Frank.
Got it. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.